Welcome to Preparing for Graduate School Workshop, provided by the University of Georgia Graduate School's Office of Recruitment and Diversity Initiatives. This video has been created for third-year students, fourth-year students, fourth-year plus students, and alumni. Traditionally, this workshop lasts about 60 minutes. However, we have focused on key slides to help you access information as a prospective student. If you're a parent or guardian, you can understand how these third, fourth year plus and alumni need to prepare. And if you're a faculty or staff member working with a student getting ready to go to graduate school, you can send them this video. So in this video, I will highlight a few slides that I talked about in the graduate school one-on-one video, but I'm going to be brief about it so that I can talk more on the details that exist in the preparation process. Before we go into the content, I want to share with you celebrities with higher education degrees. These celebrities have attended graduate school. They are athletes, actors, musicians, politicians, folks who've worked in fields of activism, to STEM, to humanities and social science. Hopefully you recognize at least one individual on the slide. Sometimes we don't know what graduate school is or graduate education involves. But if you do recognize at least one person on the slide, then now you know that they have a graduate education degree. So don't be nervous about this process. We're going to walk through all of this together, and it is completely normal to feel unsure about what graduate school feels like or looks like. But know that you will be the next person that I highlight on my slide because of your contributions in graduate education. So I want to talk about master's degrees and doctoral degrees. A master's degree will take between 1 and 3 years of study. It may involve internships or field work or final project. Some requirements might be a comprehensive exam or a thesis to submit or a research paper. Below, you can see some different examples of master degrees. Doctoral degree. You're going to design, implement, and assess research between 3 to 7 years of study. Most programs require researching, writing, and submitting a dissertation, which is a fancy word for an extensive research paper to graduate. Typically, a doctoral degree will be the highest degree you can attain. And here are some examples of doctoral degrees. How to prepare. Which program am I interested in pursuing? When I say the word program, think major. Major is a term we use in the undergraduate education field, but we use the word program in grad school. So what program do I pursue? And then once I know the program, do I want a master's or do I want a doctoral degree? What schools, what universities, what colleges are best suited for me in the research I want to do, in the practice I want to be a part of when it comes to my graduate program? Who are the professors? Do I want a professor that pushes me, that stretches me, that challenges me? Do I want a professor who I empathize with, who reflect my identities? Think of the values you have. Think of the research experience that this faculty member also contributes, and determine if it is compatible. Determine if you're a good fit. Requirements will vary for different programs, so make sure you are reading departmental websites and academic programs that specify different departments and how those departments have different requirements. So please be cautious of the different requirements because we do not want you to be behind. And once again, today's video is talking about those little details. And if we can give you the details of what you watch out for, then that's going to help you prepare. What about jobs? After I receive my graduate degree, what type of job prospects am I searching for? And then financial aid, which is a huge question that most students will ask us. How do I fund my graduate education. So first, find an academic program. If you don't know what you want to study, you can search. If you have an idea of what you want to study, you can search. If you are 100% certain what you want to do, you also can find what we offer from our website at grad.uga.edu. You can use these filters, or you can type in keywords and hit the search, and your graduate program or programs will show up. So after you find your program of interest, you want to contact the graduate coordinator. Every graduate program has a graduate coordinator, and that person is responsible for talking to prospective students about the discipline, about the graduate program. So please contact them first. They are the first individual that you want to reach out to, that you want to have a phone call with, or a Zoom meeting, or visit their office, send them an email. Make sure you are in touch with that individual. And beyond that, if possible, go visit the academic department website and see if you can find current students who are already studying in this graduate program. Talk to them. They can tell you a lot more about culture, classes, and traditions. So please keep that in mind. And once you figure out which professors or faculty members you're interested in, reach out to them. See if you can talk with them about their journey, about their interest, and see if they might have space for a graduate student. And then once you've done your homework, look at our recruitment and admissions resource pages. You'll find different information such as why grad school at UGA. You can look at our graduate school brochure, which has a lot of resources and tells you much about what we offer at the University of Georgia. And the admissions resource pages will discuss what your checklist would be if you were admitted. Also, there is a lot of information for domestic students and international students as well. Here's an example of tracking graduate school applications. So as an example, the student is applying to 3 different schools. You have all of these different headers: deadline, fee, application sent, fee paid, GRE minimum, score sent, GPA minimum, letters of recommendation, statement of purpose, CV or curriculum vitae. These are different examples of how a student can organize all requirements across these 3 different institutions, but then fill in information on each. This price is 75, this price 60, this price 60 versus 65 versus 75. Okay, whether the minimums exist, some do, some don't, on the website, knowing what a minimum might be if you have to take a standardized test. You can see here, scores are not sent yet. You can see here what the GPA minimum will be. Notice the 3 recommenders are the same people for each institution. You can do this. You can say, Dr. Watson, I'm applying to 3 different universities. Can you please write me a letter for 3 universities? Hopefully Dr. Watson will say yes. Please be kind to your professors or your supervisors or people you work with who will write for you. Give them plenty of time so that they are not rushed, so that you have a strong letter of recommendation. Also, always feel free to remind them and give a date that is not the actual deadline. As you can see here, January 1st is the deadline here, then January 5th. So if I were asking these individuals, I would talk to them in September, for example, and say, Dr. Watson, Dr. Wright, Dr. Smith, I need 3 letters of recommendation. And I would want that due December, let's say. So I talk in September. I tell these individuals that I would prefer this letter given to me by December. If you give recommenders the actual deadline and something happens in terms of time or life, they may submit late. They may be past the deadline, and you don't want to be impacted by that. So give an earlier deadline, give them plenty of time, and provide many reminders. Application deadlines. So these are the deadlines for the graduate school. For applicants seeking admission for these different semesters, you want to look at the domestic application deadline and the international application deadline. So I want to tell you, as you can see at the bottom, program and department deadlines vary and must be met in addition to those set by the graduate school. So while the graduate school's deadline for fall is July 1st, my master's program, I applied in February. My PhD program, my doctoral program, I was required to apply by December 1st. So although July 1st is the latest for the graduate school, but for the Louise McBee Institute of Higher Education, there was a different deadline for fall. For the Mary Frances Early College of Education, there was a different deadline for fall. So pay attention to how these deadlines vary from the graduate school, domestic application, and international application deadline versus the program and department deadline. Please pay attention to those details. I will also say, although I'm talking about funding later, that some graduate departments will have a deadline for funding and then a deadline for everyone else. So if you want funding, pay attention to when those deadlines are offered as well. UGA application requirements. You'll submit your application, which is $75 for domestic and $100 for international. Some of you might be required to do a standardized test score, which might include a GRE. Here is our ETS code so that you can send those codes and that testing data to UGA. Mostly, you're going to be required to submit 3 letters of recommendation. Once again, I recommend making sure your letters reflect different aspects of you. Keep that in mind. Also, at least one of these letters should be from a professor. Keep that in mind. If you don't have a close relationship with a professor, begin to build one, or begin to ask a professor to meet during their office hours and say you're interested in graduate school and you would really like for them to write up on your behalf and present ideas on how you can help show who you are so that you can receive a letter of recommendation. If you are applying, you can submit unofficial transcripts from all institutions attended. The statement of purpose is very important. I'm going to talk more about the statement of purpose, which is typically 1 to 2 pages. And I'm going to also talk about supplemental documents required by the department. So let's talk about statement of purpose first. Please create a specialized letter for the department. So if in that example of tracking applications, I'm applying to 3 different universities, I need 3 different specialized letters for those 3 different departments. If you send the same statement to all universities, it is noticeable. It shows that you have not worked hard enough to research the institution, its culture, its mission, its purpose, and thus you might not receive a favorable review. So please do not send the same letter to all universities. Make it specialized, make it personal, and include why you are interested in that specific university and department. Do the work. If you want to really be there, I encourage you to really research the culture, the environment, look at the website, the social media, talk to people who are there and present so that you can understand what makes this place specialized. Then don't forget to include your career goals and how the department can help you achieve those goals. I always recommend going to your career center if you have one at your institution to learn who to talk to about this, but also the UGA Career Center has samples that can show you positive letters. Good examples. Supplemental documents. Please be aware of other materials and documentation required by your department before a decision can be made. These materials might be a writing sample, your CV, your resume, an interview, or other aspects depending on the program. So I can tell you that for my master's program, I did not have to do anything besides submit my CV or resume. For my doctoral program, I had to submit a writing sample, and then I came for an interview, which they called visitation day, for prospective candidates who they wanted to select to enter the program. So For the most part, typically programs will want to see a CV or a resume, but the variation depends on the department. Submitting the application, complete all your information. Please include your social security number. It will be kept secure. If you are an international student without a social security number, please leave it blank. List all of your higher education institutions you have attended. Please check for typos. Give this statement of purpose to your friend. Make sure they review it. You don't want typos. You want to do your best and have a very strong impression, a good impression. We match test scores by date of birth if you are turning in standardized test scores, and then pay the fee. Once again, $75 for domestic and permanent residents, $100 for international. There are some limited application fee waivers on our website. You would have to search to see if you are associated with a national program listed by UGA. Unfortunately, UGA does not give application fee waivers based on income. But if you think that you might be a part of a national association listed on our website, search our website. If not, you will be required to pay an application fee. If you're interested in more than one program, that's a possibility. You can apply for an application, and then your second and third application, we want to reduce your cost so that you have more options. Some students might do a dual or joint degree option, which means you have two graduate programs that you might graduate with, or you have a program that's merged and it's a joint degree option. So there are certain programs that have that, but not all. But you want to research from, if you're interested in doing two different graduate programs at the same time, you want to see if that partnership exists between the departments, because some may not. Acceptance decisions. At the department level, the academic department faculty or professors, they review your file, and then they determine a recommendation to accept or deny you, and they'll send that information to the graduate school. Once it comes to the graduate school, the files are reviewed for those who are recommended for acceptance. If the graduate school agrees with the department decision, then the applicant is admitted. Then the applicant receives official acceptance letters from the graduate school, but know that the final decision is made by the graduate school. However, the review and the recommendation is made by the department. Application status. So applicants receive emails when the application is received and updated. You'll be able to log in to track that process. And for information that the graduate school might enter or the department might enter, you'll be able to see that. The applicant can see what has been received, but will not see the final decision. I also want to recommend, when we talk about an application that has 3 letters of recommendation and standardized test scores and unofficial transcripts, if any of these pieces are not turned in, the department never had a chance to review you yet. So please make sure all the letters are turned in, all the unofficial transcripts are submitted so that you can be reviewed. And students will be provided an 81X ID number or identification number, which is assigned 48 hours after their application is received. In exchange for your social security number, UGA will create an ID number for you so that you can have a protected way to access our services, and that number will be associated with you throughout your journey at UGA. Financial considerations. So let's talk about an assistantship. If you receive an assistantship, you are required to work between 13 and 20 hours a week. You also will receive a tuition reduction, and you will pay $25 a semester for tuition, which is amazing. I know. Students always say, "Are you serious?" And I'll say right now, if you're on the screen and you're listening and you just heard my voice, tuition will be waived from approximately $4,500 a semester to $25 a semester. So yes, this is real. This is not a trick. Please keep in mind that fees are required. And even though if you receive an assistantship, you receive compensation at the end of the month traditionally. So be ready to still pay for fees and be prepared to transition to UGA, but traditionally the assistantships, if you receive one, all your funds will be paid once a month at the end of the month. There are departmental assistantships, which means if I'm interested in higher education, I could receive an assistantship in higher education, or I can receive an assistantship through housing. I could receive an assistantship through working in a multicultural services office or the graduate school's Office of Recruitment and Diversity Initiatives. There are several different offices that still need students and still need graduate students specifically. And there are assistantships available. You just will have to work a bit to find where those assistantships are if you don't receive a departmental assistantship. So one thing I want to also clearly talk about is you want to go through the process of applicant, submitted applicant. If you are admitted, then the conversation of financial considerations happens at that time. So if you call as a prospective student and you're not getting a lot of information, that's because there's a long process to go through anywhere in grad school. But assistantships may be talked about if you're admitted. That's when the conversation takes place. So once again, if you don't get a departmental assistantship, there are graduate school assistantships available. There are also graduate school scholarships and fellowships. If you get admitted, once again, that's the word I'm using, some of these scholarships and fellowships require nominations. Please talk to your graduate coordinator about your interest to be nominated and competitive for extra funding or more funding. You also can look at our financial information page on our website to learn more about financial information. On-campus housing options are very important. Please look at cost of living because the more affordable your housing might be, if your assistantship is relevant to that, then that may be how you save funds or how you live in a means that reflect your assistantship. If you have more funding, then that means your housing options open up. But I know students who pay $250 a month with many roommates all the way to $1,500 a month with maybe one or two roommates or no roommates at all. So keep in mind the assistantship amount varies, but you want to be mindful of houses and apartments that exist and houses that cost either not much or a lot, depending on what your funds look like. So please think about cost of living. If you are an out-of-state student, if you receive an assistantship as an out-of-state student, you will also get a tuition waiver. So there is no concerns about that. I want to break down a little bit more about assistantships. So academic units at the university may employ graduate students in 4 types of graduate assistantships. So there are teaching assistantships. We call them TAs. Those are the individuals who are grading and or teaching classes with the professor. Lab assistantships, if you're working in the lab. Research assistantships and research fellow assistantships. So these are 4 different types of assistantships that exist. So please keep that in mind. And once again, you have that monthly stipend that typically will come at the end of the month. Normal student fees apply. So please keep that in mind every semester. And then if you don't have insurance, you are required to pay for insurance at UGA. If you do have insurance or you're under insurance, then you won't have to pay the fee for that or have to sign up. So keep that in mind in terms of just identifying your cost. As I mentioned in the previous slide, there are assistantships at the departmental level, at the graduate school level, and then other entities like student affairs. And then if you go to ugajobsearch.com, you can find other sources of funding and you can filter graduate assistantships and you can see who has shared their job posting and who are looking for graduate assistants. Tuition and fees per year. So this is a chart that once again shows you all of the amounts that you might want to consider. For this column, you have for a resident what tuition would look like, but for a non-resident, what tuition would be, but also fees. Some places combine fees. Some places have fees in addition. So for UGA, I can tell you that the graduate students have worked very hard to ask for reduced fees. So there's going to be a massive difference in fees historically in our institution. But the goal is, as you apply to multiple places, you want to see what they're offering, you want to see what they're charging, and you want to see what those fees look like so that you can make those decisions. Because as you get an assistantship, if you are living in a high cost of living area, most of your funds may go to housing, or it may not be enough and you may have to take out loans. Versus if you're looking at institutions where cost of living is low and your assistantship might be more bang for your buck. That means you might be able to save more, or you might be able to find better housing so that you keep more funds in your pocket. That's a positive. So please be strategic in how you look at fees and tuition for any institution you apply to. So I want to say thank you so much for listening. Once again, this has been our 30 minutes or less graduate walkthrough in our Preparing for Graduate School workshop video. If you want to connect with us, you can go to our website at grad.uga.edu. You can email grecruit@uga.edu. And you can easily go to our social media to see how life looks like in the graduate education sphere. So thank you so much, and we look forward to helping more students receive information about graduate education.